Hey, Riddle here. I wanted to make this video for my viewers and for anyone else who stumbles upon it because I think the conversation has to be had. Often I get in debates or heated arguments on my channel and I lose subscribers because I may post an unpopular opinion, which is easy to do today because we, as Americans especially, have lost the ability to critically think and also to debate and to hear each other. Often, though, and I always say this in my videos, when I have a really strong conviction about something, I am not giving you my opinion based on just data. I'm not giving you my opinion based on just rhetoric from various news sources. I'm giving you my opinion based on literal life experiences. And so I always feel like that has more validity than anything at all. And here we go. So this is very private, it's very intimate, but as an artist, that's what being an artist is all about. It's about exposing your innermost in a three-dimensional form. And I think speaking is an oral tradition is also a form, of course, an art form. The transgender issue. Obviously, you can see I'm from a generation that is really perplexed by the transgender phenomenon and how quickly this is being pushed forward without a lot of critical thinking and careful analysis. So I'm just going to tell you my story. And I'm hoping if you're thinking of transitioning and you're really, really young, that you can understand what I'm saying with respect. Okay, here we go. So I grew up in a very violent, psychologically unsupported household. You know, this is the 70s and the 80s. My parents came from generations of alcoholic and abuse on all forms of abuse. And then they had children because that's what people did. I was an unwanted birth, and my mother was kind of bullied to follow through with the pregnancy and marry my father. Really big mistake. So I was born into this world, as were my siblings. That was our parents. You know, they were injured, they were mentally ill, and they were addicts, alcoholics, but functional. I mean, my dad worked a factory job, and he did the maximum minimum, I like to say. Roof over the head, food in the stomach, basic clothes, you know, and that's all he could really give as a parent. But he also gave us all of his madness and all of his unresolved trauma. When I was a little boy, of course, I believe that there is a genetic link to homosexuality. The reason I believe there is a genetic link is because there are documented same-sex activity in nature, where sometimes not only will they see a certain species of animal that are displaying same-sex activity, but these are also species that mate for life, like mallard ducks. And as a child, I went through a long period that I believe a combination of my genetics as a homosexual and the forced feminization by abuse made me very dysmorphic in regards to my sexuality. And I make jokes because I grew up in an all-black neighborhood or predominantly black neighborhood, and I just wanted to play with the girls. I was hopscotch, I was jump rope, I wanted dolls. When they tried to give me GI Joes, I took the dolls and I took tissues, Kleenex, and put diapers on them and tape, and then I would roll them around like babies. And I make jokes about when I was a little black girl. And it's a joke, but honestly, I really did not identify as a boy. And it was obvious, and it was very frightening to my parents. And back then, it was not tolerated. I was very emotional. I was extra, extra sensitive in a world that could not tolerate sensitivity because you had to be strong, even if you were a woman, because the environment was so survival like. So then, as I go into my teen years, of course, I had to do a lot of hiding, but I loved putting on makeup, and I loved going into my mom's closet and putting on her heels and dresses and things when no one was around. And I was really like, it was beautiful to me, and it was intriguing. So I'm also have Native American heritage. I'm actually a registered member of the Chippewa tribe in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. And when I was old enough, I started looking for answers to find acceptance into whatever I was. And I found all of the history about the Two-Spirit people and how they existed in the tribe, and the theory behind what made them naturally, and how the tribal people assigned them and worked with them so they could high function in the tribe. So I was this is how deep the psychology was. My psychology was so deep that I wasn't even aware of the potential dangers of it. It was the 80s. I had been rejected most of my life by girls, even when I tried to show affection or tried to get a girlfriend, because I was too nice. I was too feminine and too nice. And when I was 19, I just changed. I changed and I became this like punk rock, new wave, cross-dressing freak. And I say freak respectively because I was really cool. And because I was such an individual and was putting off this aura of such confidence, everyone wanted to sleep with me. And because I had been starved of any kind of affection or attention, I just really went for it. And I slept with a lot of men, and I slept with a lot of women, and I slept with everything in between, and all variations. And the one thing that I didn't realize, and this is the point of the depth of gender dysmorphia, is that I didn't realize that I could get a woman pregnant. You're saying, what? What's he talking about? I literally was having unprotected sex with women, and because psychologically and emotionally, I did not feel even this much like a man, I never could understand, I never conceived that I could get a woman pregnant. I could have kids out there. But that's how deep that psychological dysmorphia is when you're experiencing it. And the body dysmorphia. I still have, and I've carried this sadly my entire life. And I believe, again, it's from the abuse and perhaps being slightly on the spectrum, the autism spectrum. I still suffer from the body dysmorphia. And when for years, I've never been comfortable taking my shirt off in public and or being naked in front of people. And when I moved to Los Angeles in my 30s, I was dating someone and living in a house where everyone were gym rats. And we would live on, the healthiest food, egg whites, and then we would hit the gym like six times a week. And I became 190 pounds of solid muscle. My arms were larger than my legs. And I had an 8-pack. I mean, I was a monster, and people would even, comment on the size of my arms and things. But do you know what I saw when I looked in the mirror? I saw a potato with 4 sticks coming out of it. In my entire life, when I look in a mirror, that's what I see, a potato with 4 sticks coming out of it. So this body dysmorphic thing is serious, and it really has a really quantitative effect on your health and well-being when you can't see yourself, when you literally look in the mirror and you can't see your body. So the day that I looked in the mirror and I was 190 pounds, which was 20 pounds more than I ever dreamed of being, and I was solid muscle and I couldn't see myself, that was the day I started reasoning with my dysmorphia and said, you know what, kid, if you can't own this, you're really wasting your time. You need to start, like, it's an inside job. You need to start focusing some energy somewhere else. And that's when I kind of backed off from the obsessive bodybuilding thing. Luckily, I have the self-awareness to do that. So I'm going to bring this round to the transgender issue. Because this morning I saw a video, and the video was titled Two-Spirit Doctor in Canada. And so I went to the video, and it was this gay male in Canada, and he was Indigenous, and he is helping kids there to transition. And it alarmed me. It alarmed me because they're using the premise of tradition to validate what I believe is playing the Great Spirit instead of respecting the Great Spirit. The fact is, if I would have, with all of my gender issues and other things going on in my brain, if I would have grown up today, if I would have been a teenager today, and even with or without liberal parents, I probably would have been encouraged to transition. And the fact is, I didn't even start to begin to discover who I was until I started doing the work about healing and therapy and all of these things that weren't my birthright, rebuilding my foundation and healing the 20 years I spent with maniacs who broke me up so badly. And it wasn't until I was 25 or 26 years old that I even began to embrace and accept my masculinity. And it took concentrated work. I mean, I dropped out of society and started my own business just so I had the luxury of time to focus, an exorbitant amount of time to be alone and to focus on making myself whole again. And you can see where I popped out the other side. I popped out the other side a really well-rounded gay man, a really well-rounded individual who is really happy with himself. And I'm saying this because I would be, if I was, like I said, if I was born today, I would have been almost pressured to change my sex. If that 19-year-old or that 14-year-old or that 12-year-old riddle, me, was born today, I would have made a horrible mistake. And the thing is, these young people who haven't even begun the journey of knowing themselves, and we have all these other elements in society right now that is infantilizing them, like the economy. You can't be a 19 or 20 or 30-year-old and afford to live on your own. So we have these other elements creating this stress and keeping them from making that journey into adulthood and getting to know themselves more. And now there's this strong encouragement without a lot of psychology and without a lot of responsibility to make this radical change to their body. And another thing that you want to think about, if you're thinking of transitioning, they don't have a lot of data because it used to be a very, very rare thing. People that had a literal sex change is a very rare thing statistically. And you used to have to go through years of testing and monitoring. And now it's just like bada bing, bada boom. It's easier to get hormones for transitioning, I think, that it is to get an abortion in this country now, which is frightening because kids, they don't know the long-term effects. You can't just be turned into a man or be turned into a woman. And chances are you're going to be sterilized. You're going to be sterile. So in the future, if you all of a sudden realize that you want to give birth, you're not going to have that option. And you may feel right now that, oh no, I don't want to bring kids onto this planet, or burr, 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 or I can just adopt. But you don't really know how you're going to feel in the future. You don't know what's going to happen. You're still so young. You're still just on the beginning of the journey of getting to know yourself. And these hormones, you can't just put hormones into an opposite sex and not expect some type of long-term possible damage or reaction. I mean, hormones quite often are the engines or the vehicles for cancer. You know, hormones can be incredibly carcinogenic, and we do not have the data. We do not have the historical data and information to say that this is 100% safe. So you're taking a huge risk to not only mutilate your body in irreversible ways, but also to bring on horrific diseases that are going to affect your health and well-being and shorten your life possibly. You know, I was listening to the very right-wing doctor video, because when I come to opinion strong enough that I want to put a video on YouTube, I try to look at all the information. I want to see both sides. I want to see the medical information, the biological information. And one of the points that this doctor said was, you know, this isn't like a lot of these people that are transitioning so casually. It's not like jazz, you know, the trans celebrity Jazz, where she was 2 years old, and had no chance of forming dysmorphia from trauma, and she definitely isn't autistic. Now that's that percentage of people that are very authentically trans, I believe. But you have to make sure, especially with all the people now that we know are on the autism spectrum or autistic, you're going to want to be 100% sure that your feelings right now are not coming from a dysmorphia, gender dysmorphia, or a body dysmorphia, or that you may possibly be on the spectrum, which can also really fuel powerful dysmorphia. Because the choices you're going to make are going to be irreversible. And you can't begin to understand that when you're, you know, in your teens or even in your 20s, because you think you're indestructible. And guess what? You're not indestructible. No one's indestructible. And now you also have to really look at the new population, because all of this is so new in regards to the acceptance and the amount of people that are now, you know, when in the 80s, everyone was bisexual. It was the cool thing to be. Everyone was bisexual. Okay, so if I go back and look at all the people in my clique that said they were bisexual, guess what? They're either married with kids or they're gay. No bisexuals. Also something to think about. It's very easy to follow a trend, but this isn't just a trend. This is a dangerous possible choice that you're making. I had another point. I forgot my point. Well, that's most of it. So think about it. Make sure that you do not allow yourself to get swept up in a trend or a wave. Consider that maybe it's just okay being who you are for a while. Maybe it's just okay to be a gay person or whatever you want to be. Allow yourself to be an individual. Truly individuate and look up that word, individuation. It's the most powerful tool that you can imagine. And, there are also, I want to say, I don't want to say that I'm dismissing transgender people because there's so many things we don't understand yet, and there is a population of people that are literally born with extra Y or X chromosomes, and there's a population of people that are born intersex. So we have to look at the science and we have to make room for everybody. But I'm just saying, proceed with caution. Don't get caught up in this wave, because the consequences are huge. And this is coming from someone who once had those emotions and once had the deep beliefs of somebody with who was had gender confusion. I'm going to call it gender confusion. And I have to tell you, I'm very happy with who I am now, like really happy with who I am now. And I would have truly regretted if I would have transitioned at those time periods in my life that I was so confused and hadn't even begun to get to know who I was. And that's the best advice I can give around this. Okay, take care of yourselves and take care of each other, because I believe how we treat each other on the streets is our ultimate reality. Bye for now.